This is the message that comes from their mosques, from their schools, from their television screens, and this is why we don't have peace. And this is precisely the reason why the Palestinians have not accepted any final settlement which would preserve Israel as a Jewish state, even if that means remaining stateless themselves. From the Peel Commission Partition Plan of 1937, to the UN Partition Plan of 47, to Camp David, to Annapolis, every time a two-state solution has been proposed, a final recognition of two states for two peoples, Israel has said yes, and the Palestinians have said no. And this is why we don't have peace. But if Barack Obama or Nick Clegg are to be believed, this is not the issue. Instead, it is the presence of 300,000 Jews in the West Bank, the land that we all know as Judea and Samaria, that is the cause of the conflict. But if that were true, if indeed these Jewish settlements were the cause of the conflict, wouldn't it follow that before 1967, when there were no settlements, there would have been no conflict? Wouldn't it follow that in 2005, after all the Jews were removed from Gaza, that there should be peace there too? But in the mainstream media, university campuses, in the UN, we hear this myth perpetuated, that the West Bank is occupied Palestinian territory, and that the occupation is the root of all evil in the Middle East. There is this preoccupation with the occupation. But who is this land occupied from? For there to be an occupation, there needs to be a legal sovereign with the superior right of possession, which Israel has dispossessed. But no such sovereign exists. There has never been an independent Palestinian state from which the land is to be occupied. The truth is that the land is disputed. It is disputed because Israel has a biblical, historical, and de facto connection to the land, and it's disputed because the Palestinians want this land to form the basis of their future state. But why should Jewish life in these territories be strangled while the dispute remains ongoing? Why can a Jew not build an annex to his house for his growing family? Why can a community not build a daycare center for their children? The land is disputed, so let's settle the dispute. Let's talk. This is what Israel has been saying for years, but the world doesn't listen. And instead they feed this Palestinian delusion that settlements are at the core of the conflict. So as friends of Israel, I ask you to challenge this. Stand up to this myth, this fallacy. When someone speaks of the Israeli occupation and a Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria as the cause of the conflict, correct them. And perhaps refer them to Genesis 15 as well. I also believe that the causes and the solutions to Arab Israeli conflict are rooted in morality, the choice of peace or war, of life or death. Today people are reluctant to speak of morality. It's seen as an oversimplification to use words like right or wrong, good and evil, but often things are exactly as simple as they appear. To send your children to die as suicide bombers is evil. To butcher political rivals in the street is wrong, it is evil. To preach hate and death in mosques and schools is wrong, and it is evil. To give Arab Israelis full equal rights, despite all that has passed between the two peoples, is good, and it is right. For Israeli surgeons to treat dying Palestinians with no regard for their race or religion is good, and it is right. For Israeli victims of Palestinian terror attacks to donate organs to Palestinians is remarkable, and it is good, and it is right. Nowhere was the contrast in morality more evident than in the prisoner exchange with Hamas which took place last October. The exchange resulted in the release from bondage of one Israeli, a 25-year-old infantryman from Mitzpeh Falah in the western Galilee, in exchange for 1,027 convicted murderers, conspirators, remorseless killers. Israel could have chalked Gilad Shalit up as another soldier who fell in battle, but it couldn't do that, it wouldn't do that, because there was a life to be saved. Because though Israel is a secular state, Jewish ethics are ingrained in the soul of the nation. And as the former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, Lord Jakobovits, once said, the value of human life is infinite and beyond measure. And this is one of the guiding principles of the Jewish faith and indeed the Jewish state. And the dignity with which Israel treats human life is not confined to Jewish life. No state faced with a similar conflict has done more than Israel to avoid civilian casualties. Israel will send its soldiers to go door to door through booby-trapped alleys and risk ambush to ensure that civilian life is spared wherever possible. Palestinian prisoners in jails are given legal representation, have the benefits of due process, appellate courts, access to the Red Cross, visitation rights, regular meals. Gilad Shalit was convicted of no crime, yet he was kept underground, malnourished, his wounds untreated, with no access to his family, the Red Cross, or even sunlight for 5 years, 5 long years. And so Jewish morality led the nation to celebrate the exchange because it meant that a life was redeemed. Meanwhile, the Palestinians held their own celebrations, greeting their murderers like heroes, throwing praise to honor their evil deeds, baying for more terror attacks, calling for more abductions of Israelis. Israel chose to celebrate life, the Palestinians chose to bask in death. This is why we have no peace. It's not about settlements or borders or resources. is because one side yearns for peace and will make painful concessions to achieve it, will do anything necessary to bring its children home, and the other side will gleefully send its children to die as suicide bombers. As Golden Way said, peace will come when the Arabs love their children more than they hate us.